All right, good evening and many thanks for joining us here. I'm Joram Ssonko with Winnie Nakawuki on For the Sign Language. But first, let's have a look at our top stories.
In business today, KCCA needs more than 1.4 trillion shillings to renovate almost all the roads because of the majority of them have overlived their duration. Experts urge that lack of adequate infrastructure to support cross-border trade could impede the movement of goods and services across the country, making it difficult for businesses to capitalize. Hilton Foundation and other development partners to offer a grant to the tune of $500 million US, over 1.8 billion to improve financing.
And the Budget Committee have had a tense debate with diverse perspectives about the resource envelope to deal with the issue of potholes in the Kampala metropolitan area. While the majority agreed with the committee chairperson's suggestion to redirect some of the district's funds for roads in order to clean the streets of Kampala, a few people objected. Samla Hanifa was there, and this is what she gathered.
The President instructed the Ministry of Finance last week to grant KCCA 6 billion shillings to repair the potholes in Kampala, which are making the nation a laughing stock on various social media platforms. While presenting the infrastructure budget, legislators expressed concerns about potholes which are raising the cost of doing business in the city.
Be focusing only on those roads near the hosting hotel, the hotel that will be hosting NAM. We should be thinking about the whole of Kampala. In fact, if visitors are coming to Kampala, so which means Kampala is going to be the face of Uganda.
According to legislators, the committee needs to come up with an appropriate amount allocated to KCCA for rehabilitation of all Kampala metropolitan roads because they are all in a dire state.
Debate of KCCA coming here to say they need money. Let us have a clear strategy on how to fund infrastructure around the capital city. Not just about Kampala. The whole thing about Kampala is that they imagine the visitors will stay in Munyonyo only and take the express highway. They will meander around and they will find a dilapidated city. So, Chair, the debate we want to engage in, what the Works Committee, have you looked at the requirement of how to fund key basic infrastructure? Most MPs who are here stay in Wakiso.
Some members of the legislature objected to the Budget Committee chairperson's suggestion that the 400 million shillings for district roads be sent to KCCA, since districts had already added 1 billion shillings for roads.
There has been allotted a little fund. Districts have been given 1 billion minimum.
Yes.
From Tuke has been getting like 300.
Yeah.
Now they have given them 1 billion plus 300, which is 1.3.
Yes.
So we are saying the money which has been going to the district, why can't we use it to construct, help government to construct the infrastructure around?
Something that is very unfortunate, and it's very unfortunate that it has also come from you, is to touch our money from the districts.
Getting 1 billion, which is going.
Let me make my submission.
During the oversight visit around Kampala roads, the committee noticed that the majority of the roads are in bad condition and require renovation rather than simply patching the holes.
Much as the other roads are bad, but with this issue of having 1 billion for each district, now the money for road fund should look at two institutions, KCCA and UNRA, so that we can have Kampala put in good order. The motorists must be suffering everywhere.
Capital is ill-funded. It gets less than 10% of what is collected in form of taxes. And all the divisions of Kampala are ill-funded. If we want the roads done, let us use the money we get from the budget to replenish Kampala. Therefore, we warned this 1 year ago during the budgetary session. People did not take it serious. Now they are paying the cost.
The 10 billion shillings is insufficient for KCCA to fulfill its mandate and fix the roads, according to the Deputy Executive Director, Engineer David Luyimbazi. He told the legislators that more than 1.4 trillion shillings is required to work on all the roads because the majority of them have outlived their duration.
Financially, we're getting a total of 10 billion shillings. And we're saying that that money is not sufficient to meet the challenges the city faces, the roads, the drainages, the garbage that needs to be dealt with. According to our strategic plan, we need about 1.4 trillion shillings every financial year to be able to have a livable, sustainable city.
The Minister for Kampala is expected to brief Parliament on the rehabilitation process of all Kampala roads tomorrow during plenary session. Samlanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, Ugandans have raved over these poor roads in the capital, as the poor state of the road network across Kampala city and the surrounding areas has not only contributed to accidents, but it's also increasing the cost of vehicle maintenance. While engaging with some motorists and the mechanics on the cost of car repairs due to the effects of potholes revealed, as they now make double payments for their cars. Naomi Mumba reports.
For the past 2 weeks, citizens and entrepreneurs have been circulating requests to mend the potholes on the roads in and around Kampala. While interacting with some taxi drivers and technicians, they expressed their displeasure with how potholes compel them to make double payments almost every week because they are forced to send cars to the garage due to the damage the road has caused to them on a regular basis.
Government yetuyambe je kolokotewo kolansi oyo kubanga ekinnya kya kolansi kiba sharpu nnyo okusinga ate ekinnya ekya malamu.
Let government help us and reconstruct these roads because these potholes are deep and this damages our tires, yet we spend a lot of money in buying them. Shock absorbers also get damaged and our cars are always in the garage.
Bikyaliko dereva bikyaliko musaabaze. Buli muntu anyigirizibwa olw'ebinnya ne bw'osanga mulalo ali ku kkubo agamba ekinnya kinkosa.
These potholes don't favor either drivers or passengers. Everyone is bothered about these potholes. But we have so much joy because the president noticed what is happening on social media. Truth be told, Uganda is the pearl of Africa. But we as drivers have lost hope because every day we take our cars to the garage since every part breaks down and we are working in losses where even our bosses have taken away the cars from us.
According to Rogers Mohereza, a car mechanic in Bogolobi, the cost of repairing an automobile can range between 6 and 8 million Ugandan shillings. Hence, he asks Kampala Capital City Authority to revamp all Kampala roads.
You still find that where there was a pothole, it's going to still be a pothole in next how many days? Meaning that, yes, he did the patching, he repaired the place, but still, lack of a better word, it still maintained his pothole in the same place. So what would be the solution? Solution is, yes, let's do, I would say, a complete overhaul, using my mechanical language. Let's overhaul all the roads. Let's remove everything and reconstruct. Get maybe a good contractor who will say, I'm going to clear these roads very well. I think Madam Jane from CCA had done some good job. Wherever she did the repairs, things are still okay, but ever since she left now, we are beginning to miss that tough lady.
In a previous conversation, KCCA spokesperson Simon Kasiate said that although the Kampala Capital City Authority did not have money to repair the city's expanding potholes, the problem would be resolved in 30 months.
Ugandans tend to spend even more hours of what should have been their productive time on places such as social media, and so we never equate that. But where the roads are bad, that's where you draw the line. Fair enough, you pay taxes for that, but I'm also saying that we waste more time doing other things that we shouldn't be doing than trying to allocate our lack of productivity to the fact that roads are not motorable. Well, the good thing is that within an average of 30 months, we'll have motorable roads and all that, and then you'll see what the Muganda says.
While releasing the fourth quarter of the national budget, the Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, Ramadhan Gobi, stated that KCCA was allocated 60.458 billion, an increase from the 13.9 billion released in quarter 3 for road maintenance, indicating a ray of light for the business community.
Kampala Capital City Authority, we have released the 0.458 billion under Government of Uganda development expenditure. This includes funds for road maintenance and drainage, 40 billion, and it is an increase from 13.9 billion, which was released in Q3, and ensures that the total government development expenditure for KCCA has been fully released.
The poor state of road network across Kampala city has contributed to increasing costs of vehicle maintenance. Engaging with some of the motorists and car mechanics, they have attributed this to government. They have, however, tasked KCCA to come up and reconstruct all the roads. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now the parliamentary budget process has begun, and today the committee has met with the Presidential Affairs Committee, which requested 37 billion shillings for the coffee value chain under research, technology and innovation, which the committee denied. We have more in this report.
Coffee from Uganda has historically struggled to compete competitively on the world market due to issues with quality and packaging, among other things. The Presidential Affairs Committee has advised the Budget Committee that in order for farmers to benefit from the coffee, the quality must be improved, and hence 37 billion shillings is required to finish the work.
All the weaknesses we have been having, which are affecting us in giving us good money, all those weaknesses have been a very big concern to the country. So we think bringing in science, technology, and innovation, where value addition processes are analyzed, tested before implementations take on, will give an input, will be able to enhance our quality assurance processes so that we can compete in bigger markets. So the 37 billion is supposed to be used to ensure quality enhancement.
The Budget Committee has suggested, however, that the coffee item be placed under UDC Uganda Development Corporation or UCDA Uganda Coffee Development Authority, even though the authority is in danger of collapsing.
We can't just allocate 37 billion to an entity that is going to be dealing. I think this is the first time they are dealing with this mandate. But did you look at their work plan? Can they actually absorb this, or it's just going to be dished out? We are undertaking program-based budgeting. But if you have a UCDA that has been handling these programs, completely crippled, then we see the money going into a new office where we are not clear about the activities, the work plan. Maybe chairperson, help us. Otherwise, chair, I think we are becoming, this budget committee is just becoming a rubber stamp to endorse figures.
We need to be updated about the issue of mergers, because I doubt whether this is a mistake.
Dealing with the budget.
Chair, we are dealing with the budget. But still, when we comment about why do we have this coffee value chain development item here, still we need to ask. Because if you say it goes under, it should go under UCDA. But you have submissions under the BFP that these agencies want to be in place. So for me, I want clarification from her. Is it that she foresaw ahead that this institution won't be there? This is why this item is allocated in the office of the president.
According to the budget chairperson, he is aware of a meeting between some coffee individuals and the president in which they requested for a $10 million loan to export coffee to ready markets in Europe. According to the chair, the item above cannot be classified as science, technology or innovation because it is a loan that will be returned.
That should be under UCDA or UDC. So where it is now house, it is under STI, but it should be under UCDA or UDC. So the two. And when I saw the letter allocating the resources, additional resources, there was no mention about STI. was talking about. So the onus is we members of parliament to place it in a right home.
The Presidential Affairs Department has also asked for 70 billion shillings for the pharmaceutical company in Matuga, which they claim will address the issue of drug shortages and speed up the production of vaccines for Uganda because the country is still in the testing on animal stage.
This infrastructure is in Matuga, and this will be one of the biggest things that everyone should support. How much money do we spend as a government, as a country, to import vaccines, to import drugs? So when we have an individual who sacrifices and initiates something, it is worth supporting. So we believe that infrastructure is going to relieve this country in other expenditures, because when you import, apart from buying the specific goods you intend, there are overhead costs. But if we have ours just at the heart of the country.
The Budget Committee continues to assess budget allocations for all sectors through their respective committees of Parliament. Samlanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Away from that, let's talk matters exploring the African Continental Free Trade Area. The continent is underdeveloped and freight industries have long been a problem for intra-African trade. However, with the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, investment in freight and logistics is anticipated to increase in order to support a wider economic expansion on the continent's anchors lead. However, there are substantial infrastructure and feasibility issues with the trade treaty that could prevent it from succeeding. Rona Nahabwe with more.
The African Continental Free Trade Area went into effect in January 2021 with an aim to expand trade and economic development within Africa by establishing a single market for products and services. A market of 1.2 billion people and a combined GDP of over $3 trillion are anticipated to be covered by this deal. Speaking at the symposium on how the youth can benefit from the Continental Free Trade Area, experts argue that the lack of adequate infrastructure to support cross-border trade could impede the movement of goods and services across the continent, making it difficult for businesses to capitalize on the trade pact's opportunities.
The CFTA provides a lot of potential to create jobs, to increase production, to increase also intra-Africa trade. But what's coming out also is that this potential has to be turned into a reality, and there are things which needs to be addressed. For example, the issue of infrastructure. Even if you have products here, you need to be able to transport them either by rail, either by air, either by road. And when you look at our connectivity, it still has challenges. Even when you look at just the East Africa, moving goods from Uganda to Kenya, because there is no railway line. So we need to address that.
But if we don't address some of the concerns of making sure that Africa is connected so that traders or exporters were able to actually move our goods from one African country to the other. If we don't do that, then we shall have, a market that is in place, but it is not benefiting us as, people who are supposed to be, getting much from it. So that is one of the challenges that we face as exporters, and which I think the African states should really focus on that and make sure that we address it. Then also the issue of insecurity. You find that some countries, some African countries, their politics are not stable.
CEO of Intemba Fresh continues to add some of the challenges he has experienced as an exporter of fresh organic products while he interacts with the market, highlighting lack of harmonization of standards as one of the bigger challenges.
We have unpatriotic people who compromise. A product is of raw quality, is of raw standard, but you again give it a certificate to cross to some other country. Yet the other country, they are very serious with what enters into their markets. And you find that they base on that to reject some of our products. But it is something that we also need to look at, and also engage farmers, because they are the ones who are producing these products. If we don't engage them in areas of what is required in the market and what is not required,
Given the disparities in economic growth across African nations, the Continental Free Trade Area also faces difficulties in putting up agreement into practice. While some nations have highly developed economies, others are still working to develop their economies and may not be able to successfully compete in a free trade zone area.
I think the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is a good opportunity and discussion, but I see the realities of it still lie in future because of so many constraints that we haven't fixed in the past and we are not about to fix them. When you look at the data, who are the biggest trading partners with Uganda globally? A little bit of India, a little bit of China, where we export. Looking at where we send our goods. We're sending a lot of goods to United Arab Emirates, which is largely gold. Now that doesn't require the kind of heavy infrastructure to move around. You come to Africa, it's Kenya, it is South Sudan, Sudan North, which is now in war, it's the DRC, Rwanda, and a little bit of Tanzania.
Ask the Ministry of Agriculture to extend more services to the farmers who are producing these products so that they can guide them on how to produce a product that is demanded at the international market. Then also, for us to improve this African trade, we need to improve on the connectivity. If we talk of standard gauge railway that crosses from Kenya, goes to Uganda and Rwanda, let's all work in harmony so that if the project has already succeeded in Kenya, what is happening in Uganda? Why can't we also pick from where Kenya stopped and improve the railway so that people can be able to move? Then connecting flights within Africa, because you find that for you to maybe go to like Angola, you may need fast flight to Brussels and then come back to Africa, which is a bit tiresome and very expensive. So if we have these internal flights that can move products and all that, then it would be really very good for us to be able to carry out trade.
As certain trade pacts negotiated in the region such as EAC, COMESA and SADC still face some underlying difficulties, Fred Muhumuza highlights the exploitation of the low-hanging fruit as the ideal strategy rather than switching to a completely new pact.
The challenge seems to be more not on accessing the market, but rather production. Right now we have the price of rice increasing heavily because of the demand for rice in the region, not just in Uganda. Now I hear government officials are trying to propose that we can import rice tax-free. You're not going to solve the problem. Because you bring it in Uganda, it will be bought by the Sudanese, it will be bought by the DRC people. They are all shopping here. So why don't we focus on increasing our own production? Because the trade opportunities within the region are immense. Start with that low-hanging fruit, even as conversations on Africa Free Continental Trade Area continue.
Although the African Continental Free Trade Zone area has the potential to completely alter Africa's economic landscape, its viability and infrastructure will require considerable investments and legislative adjustments. If the trade agreement is effective, it may be very beneficial to African nations and aid in the growth of the whole continent. By the time it is completely implemented in 2035, the African Continental Free Trade Area is anticipated to significantly enhance Uganda's exports and imports. Uganda's overall exports could grow by up to $2.55 billion in the fiscal year of 2035, compared to their $4.15 billion pre-pandemic value in the fiscal year of 2020, while imports could rise roughly by $3.10 billion during that specific time. Runana Habwe, Smart 24 TV Business Today.
All right, now, elsewhere, youth attended over 25 billion Ugandan shillings. There's attention and unrest amongst the youth in Rampara district following the decision by the president, by the district youth council, chaired by Brian Muhumbira, to channel 25 million Ugandan shillings that was meant to construct a district youth center into buying goats that were distributed among futures and youth leaders. We have more details.
There is a growing unrest in Rampara district between a section of leaders and the youth following alleged mismanagement of 25 million shillings money that was meant to build a youth centre in the district. A section of the youth group accuses the district youth council for channeling this money to procure goats, which they allegedly divided amongst themselves. The youth who were demanding for accountability for this money have now called upon anti-corruption agencies, police to swing into action and bring the culprits to book.
I would wish to see these people being interrogated, to be questioned about what they did and how it was done. Because if something is for the public, you should really work on it with keen interest, understanding that there are other people outside who are watching.
In 2021, youth in Rampara held a district youth day together with their MPs, created a youth fund which later saw 25 million Ugandan shillings collected. Youth later sat and passed a resolution to construct a youth centre in Nyihanga Town Council, but this was never put in action. On Easter Monday, it is alleged that 6 youth led by their district chairman Brian Muhimbura sat in a meeting and overturned their earlier resolution and bought goats which they distributed among youth leaders at sub-county level.
At first we had actually agreed, though the leadership sat and said, we actually would love to have a youth center, but what is the benefits? And one of the benefits was to maybe rehabilitate these youth from using drugs and all those things, and maybe they can keep busy there. But after good research, we realized that what the youth need is to be economically empowered so that they don't go around trading centers using drugs.
This has since sparked fire in the district, with a section of youth tasking their leaders to provide accountability and provide explanation on who gave them a mandate to procure these goats.
There was mismanagement of money. We also want to understand how many goats were bought within 25 million. And at the same time, which procedures did they follow?
These people are thieves. It is like the people who have stolen iron sheets. The iron sheets belong to the public. And then because you have been given an office, you make yourself have a bonanza.
Muhimbura and his group, however, maintains that procuring goats was the best decision that they could ever make, since the other options, which among others included starting up a youth circle, were not realistic.
Here we looked at what do we need and how is our land. How about other things? Because as I've told you, we looked at different projects. But this is very feasible for this land.
We believe when the youth get involved in rearing goats, get involved in doing agriculture, get involved in doing farming. For example, they are going to develop a sense of ownership.
Before the procurement of these goods, a section of youth tried to seek order from court and block their distribution, but it was too late. District leaders also tried to intervene, but in vain. The disgruntled youth are now planning to challenge the decision of their colleagues into court of law. They also appealed to anti-corruption agencies, police and district leaders to intervene.
So we are going to court and we're going to petition these guys, and court will decide whether they were right or they were wrong. But from the look of the things, they were wrong. And if all goes well, if they are wise, they should look for this money and return it back to the account before the court runs for them.
So far, out of the 7 sub-counties and town councils in Rampara district, only youth leaders from 3 sub-counties have already received these goods. The beneficiaries will later pass on a kit to their fellows until the entire district youth group is covered. Catherine Mugerwa, Masikatsime for Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
We now take a break, but we return with more business today, so keep around.
Smart 24, driving business.
Futimbuto, the taste of Uganda in a new international park.
He must be rich, tall, handsome, from a respectable family. He must have a maid because at our home we do not work.
Conductor Masao.
Owa, obadde olobye ku ssimu?
Yamunange, anti yo TV enkolera.
Nyumirwa omulembe omupya ogujjudde ebisanyusa omuli emikutu gya TV egisukka mu 8 n'egya radio nga kw'otadde ne zifirimu ng'osinziirira wonna w'oli. Genda mu App Store oteeke app ya TV channels ku simu yo olwo onyumirwe ennaku 3 ng'olabira bwereere ewatali kukozesa data.
TV channels.
Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial *292#. Step 2. Select option 1. Register with Zabu. Step 3. Enter your full names. Step 4. Enter your national identification number. Step 5. Enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest.
Smart 24, driving business.
We'll be back from the break. Let's continue with more business today. And now we talk matters financial inclusion in regards to the refugees. When displaced populations start to settle in camps, their main concern is access to financial services and a reliable source of income. A donation of 500 million from the Hilton Foundation and other development partners will help the refugee settlement areas of Nachivale and Kiriadongo by enhancing financial inclusion and early childhood development. We have details.
Refugees are undertaking their own entrepreneurial initiatives, often in sectors in which they have no prior experience. According to Noah Sembija, the country lead for refugee financial inclusion at Opportunity Bank, most of them also lack collateral and access to microloans that could help them start their own businesses. This therefore prompted Hilton Foundation and other development partners to offer a grant to a tune of $500 million, that's 1.8 billion, to improve financial inclusion and early childhood development.
Refugees in Uganda are facing a number of economic challenges. For example, when refugees come into the country, they come as they are. They don't come with they don't have color logbooks, they don't have land. The small pieces of land they have that is given to them by the government is not theirs. And so one biggest challenge they face in their bid to access financial services is lack of collateral. And this has, is a big challenge that it has motivated us as Opportunity Bank to design products for the refugees that they are able to access without necessarily requiring them to bring any form of collateral.
Hilton Foundation has been honing its priorities over time. Today, it funds 7 focus areas, including refugees. 4 of these are essentially global in nature. Grants from Hilton refugee initiatives totaled $19 million in 2021. In 2022, the program commitment more than doubled to $46 million, or almost 10% of its overall grant making, representing a commitment of the program that more than twice.
Sortium has been working with refugees since 2018. It is a concern, it's always a concern, but we have very strong partnerships with Office of the Prime Minister, with UNHCR, with the refugee-led organisations themselves and the local communities. And working through and with those partnerships, we have been able to minimise that risk. That's not to say that every single loan that has been given. We have lost 1 or 2 refugees back to their communities, which of course is also seen as success to them, to their countries, but majority of the loans that the banks have been able to disperse have been successfully paid, and the refugees are still in country.
James Onyuta, the managing director, Finger, commended this initiative, saying it's exciting to have partnerships to render the refugee financing space with more finances and financial literacy.
As you're aware that Uganda hosts over 1.5 million refugees in this country, and it's important to make sure that they get sustainable financial services and are able to live sustainably in those communities. Now, as Finca today, the Hilton Fund grant of support helps us actually to target our interventions to early childhood learning centers. Now, these are actually centers that are training children below the age of 8 years and empowering them with the skills to be able to be productive as they grow.
The consortium has been working together for 4 years, but this is the first of its kind to target early childhood development specifically in refugee and host settings. I know no other organizations in Uganda that are doing this right now.
According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, the refugee population in Uganda is estimated at 1.15 million people. This makes Uganda one of the largest refugee hosting countries in the world. Southern Sudan alone is the source of more than 1 million refugees, with 86% of these comprised of women and children. Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now let's talk matters self-reliance funding. Well, despite progress made in reducing new infectious diseases and AIDS-related death, much more needs to be done to achieve the end HIV target by 2030. One critical factor that will determine the success is sustainable funding for HIV prevention, treatment and care in Uganda. Bronia Katosime with the report.
Over 1.3 million of the 1.4 million Ugandans who have HIV are currently receiving treatment, making it a substantial public health issue. Significant funding issues jeopardize the Uganda AIDS Commission's capacity to carry out its duty. Take the National Strategy Plan, for example, which asked for $732 million but received only $82 million, with a budget deficit of $145 million in 2021, is an example of how funding for HIV programs in Uganda has decreased despite increased donor support.
Most of the money that government is providing is also heading to treatment. So in the area of prevention, there is very little budget in there. And for us to go out, for them to go out and carry out this awareness campaign, they need facilitation. And that's why they come back to us as Parliament to ask us to allocate more resources in the area of prevention so that we can hit the target of talking about prevention but also providing at treatment.
We had asked or budgeted to use $732 million. Of that, only 82 million was coming from Uganda. So 82 out of 732, you can do the math. And we had a budget deficit in that year of around $145 million. So if the government could add us a little more money.
Currently, Uganda's HIV programs rely significantly on donor funding, which is not long-term sustainable. Domestic finance for self-sufficiency to achieve long-term self-reliancy, domestic funding for HIV interventions must be invested in. This can be done by increasing funding for HIV programs and looking at creative financing options, including public-private partnerships and social health insurance.
There is also uncertainty that our friends, the development partners who have been giving us the money, with the enacting of this law, what is going to happen? We are still in suspense. And therefore, as government and as Parliament, we are asking government and Ministry of Finance to give us this money, because the government is collecting this money.
Due to lack of funding, they can only afford to provide services to 44 districts with the 62 high-load districts. In order to fulfill its promises to ending HIV by 2030, Uganda must devote more funds to prevention initiatives, especially for critical populations that are most vulnerable to contracting HIV.
The most important thing is to invest in what I mentioned in giving information to these people. We call it treatment literacy, so that they know some of the side effects of the medicine, but they use them, and you can adjust your lifestyle such that you're able to live with this medicine, because it's helping you control the virus, but it can also affect you.
The government of Uganda needs to allocate enough funds to the USC and invest in domestic funding for HIV programs to achieve self-reliancy. Additionally, investing in prevention will help reduce new infections and work towards ending the HIV epidemic in Uganda. Bronya Katsime, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now we head to our coffee court conversations. And the conversations tonight, we examine the importance of global and regional trade agreements and how they help the economy grow by raising the level of export transactions, which in turn raises the national GDP over time. Now, Sam Musige, Commissioner Regional Trade, the Ministry of the East African Community, meets with our presenter, Rona Nahabwe, to discuss the regional full economic integration and how Ugandan economists can fit it.
You're most welcome to today's episode of Coffee Court. My name is Rona Nahabwe, where we bring you the latest or the deliberate conversations that should interest you. Today we are having Mr. Sam Musige, who is in charge of economic affairs here at the Ministry of East African Community Affairs. Thank you, and say hello to the viewers.
Thank you so much. I'm called Musige Sam. I'm the Acting Assistant Commissioner in the Department of Economic Affairs in the Ministry of East African Community Affairs.
Okay.
The Ministry of East African Community Affairs is a ministry in all the partner states of East Africa, with the main purpose of making sure that they work as the spokesperson and the coordinator of East African community integration. So the main objective of the Ministry of East African Community Affairs is to make sure that Uganda benefits from the East African community. And with us, the East African community has got 4 pillars. That is the customs union, the common market, the monetary union, and the political federation. But of course, economic affairs, we normally handle the 3 pillars, which is the customs union, common market, and the monetary union.
Okay, to begin with, before we even look at the main topic, which is NTBs or non-tariff barriers, I would like to look at what are the barriers locally that are hindering regional trade for Uganda.
There are no serious specific barriers, but partner states at times come up with measures which are not, which impede trade, of course, but which are not supposed to be there, because as the customs union, they're supposed to be having a free flow of goods within the EAC.
Yes.
But what happens that because of one reason or another, maybe because of diseases, maybe because of other factors, like last time you heard that Kenya had stopped the transfer of maize from Uganda to there, raising issues, health issues, that the maize from Uganda had aflatoxins. So those are the measures. But otherwise, goods have been and are moving across the borders without challenges. Also, some time back, also we had issues of sugar. Also had issues of milk.
Milk, yes.
Yeah, we had those issues, but we have been resolving them. By the time they continue reoccurring. Even we had issues of chicken and eggs with Kenya, but they have been, we resolved them. Majorly resolved them either at the EAC level or bilaterally between Uganda and Kenya.
Maybe to just bring you up to speed, Kenya in the last 4 years has blocked a number of Ugandan exports, including milk, poultry products, beef, sugar, like you mentioned. And what we import from Kenya is around $940 million US. Kenya imports from Uganda, Kenya exports from Uganda amount to $401 million. As you can see, we import more than we export to Kenya. And if you look at Tanzania as well, Uganda's imports from Tanzania are $734 million. This is according to OESC, a site where we get some of these statistics. And you know, like I mentioned, we import more from Kenya than we export. And I would like us to derive this to some of the bureaucratic inefficiencies and, you know, the influx of counterfeits, corruption, and infrastructure problems. How intense are these factors in hindering our trade?
Yeah, I think in 2019 and 2018, before COVID came in, the trading pattern had changed. In fact, Uganda was exporting more to Kenya than what they were. Initially, of course, Kenya, we have been importing more from Kenya. But in 2018 and 2019, we were exporting more to Kenya than what they were importing to us. Okay. That's and I think also that was there was a lot of, if you could hear media in Kenya complaining that Uganda was selling products of low standards. That's the issue of milk when it came in, the issue of grains, that's when it came in. You know, when you're looking at trade is also political. There are other factors also. So I think we have been doing very well, but of course Kenya was surprised to see that Uganda was now able to sell more to them. So in a way, in a bid to reduce our exports to Kenya, some people came up and saying that Uganda, our products were not of good standards, okay, like milk, like maize. But we have, you know, this is a relationship. So when a relationship, when issues raise up, you get off solving them. So issues were raised maybe by competitors, and then we have tried to handle these issues amicably.
Should I say that the non-tariff barriers are a cause to worry for East Africa as a region?
Yeah, the non-tariff barriers, because these are measures imposed by partner states other than tariffs, which can impede trade. For example, when Kenya said that our maize had the aflatoxins, so we were not able to send maize there. So it would affect us. The same with milk, the same with other things. But we have also been imposing non-tariff barriers to other countries, and they also complain about them, but we have been trying to solve them. See, there are some things, for example, you may not be able to handle. For example, now when we had COVID, remember, we had COVID, and we were stopping people to come in without testing, those kind of stories. Kenyan drivers complained at the border, and we had issues, and we had to get an amicable way of solving it. So, because of maybe some health reasons, if a country says that your maize has issues, you may not be able to until you confirm what is the real issue. So that one. We have other things like the way bridges also, they can act as NTBs, and those kind of things. So the major problem is these NTBs. Sometimes come in, or eggs and chicken. Also, one time we have been having a very long time NTB with Kenya about beef, saying that we were not allowing their beef in Uganda because we were saying that their beef could be having some, be infected with the mad cow disease. And Kenya has been complaining, and we had refused until recently when we harmonized. So these measures are taken in most cases by partner states or countries with aim of protecting the population.
Okay. I would like to understand the quotas and embargoes. For someone who doesn't even know these terms, what are they? How do they apply? When do they come to be effected?
Yeah. You see, with quotas, for example, under COMESA.
Okay.
Under COMESA, we have every country has got a quota which is supposed to supply or to export to another country. So they give you, they say, because you see, we are like, for example, you are producing milk and supplying it. For example, okay, I'm going to give you a simple example. You are supplying food to Makerere University, and there are about 5 farms. So because all of you have to go into business, what we do, we say that every company will supply this, because the demand of Makerere could be 10 tons. So they say that maybe if you have 5 suppliers, every country should supply 2 tons, so that we meet what is required in Makerere. So also under COMESA, we have got tons, I mean quotas which were put there, that maybe Uganda should supply maybe 90,000 tons of sugar, so that everybody would be able to supply in that market. So you don't bring everything we have, so that other colleagues also must be what? Must be able to supply. Because we have, under COMESA, we have other big strong countries like Egypt, which produces sugar, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania is part of them. So, and the other South African countries. So that's why there are those quotas. Just make sure that you supply what has been scheduled for you to supply.
How about embargoes?
Embargoes, you see, you put an embargo. An embargo is like you are stopping something from coming because of reasons. Now, like I was telling you, for example, the issue of maize. If you have said that if you suspect that maize in Uganda is not very good for human consumption, you put an embargo there. Of course, for another reason, you have failed to fulfill another technical reason, or you're not fulfilling another condition. They can say, because Uganda, I'm going to give you an example, that maybe because the DRC, you are not following the human rights. Therefore, we're not going to allow you to bring your coffee maybe to EU. That's an embargo. You stop somebody from doing something so that it can affect you. For example, you say Uganda, since you export sugar, we're not going to allow you to export sugar to either EU or to EAC because you have not fulfilled A, B, C, D.
How best can these restrictions be harmonized to lessen trade tensions?
Yeah, normally what happens is that we have dispute resolution measures at all levels. You know, for example, at the WTO, world organizations, we have regional blocks. These days we have the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Yes.
We have like I've told you, the other X, like COMESA, SADC, we have the tripartite, we have the ECOWAS of West Africa. So at that level, people sit and resolve these issues.
Do bilateral negotiations really come out to be fruitful, that they can?
Very fruitful. Very fruitful. Especially at the EAC level. We have always had meetings with our colleagues who have solved a number of issues with Kenya, especially about all these issues we've been talking about milk, about sugar, about all those things we have been solving them about. We had also put NTBs on a number of these products coming from Kenya, the VCs. We had the fees under pharmaceuticals, but we all removed all these through bilateral meetings, and even at the regional level.
Okay, to juxtapose this, when you mentioned the African Continental Free Trade Zone, I remembered World Bank's economic update for Uganda last year mentioned for Uganda to benefit fully from this free zone, Uganda and her neighbors will need to overcome hurdles that have long weakened the effectiveness of existing regional arrangements by facilitating better trade through improved logistics, infrastructure, addressing non-tariff barriers, and avoiding the politically motivated trade barriers like border closures. And border closures, we have seen these, like, just then we hear that the Malaba border has been closed. The border that connects us to Tanzania has been closed. How best, or what is the scope of cooperation between the EAC trading bloc?
The EAC is doing very well, And we don't have real border closures in the EAC. The only last border closure we had was between Uganda and Rwanda. And I think it has been handled and so on. But between Uganda and Tanzania and Kenya and South Sudan, we don't have border closures. We only have, like I've told you, the NTPs which may rise up because of other reasons. Maybe the biggest challenge we'll be having right now is that the Republic of South Sudan, of course, this is still a young country, they have very many challenges. So they at times have been coming up with issues. Like recently, the drivers were striking, but we again sat and we are also going to continue to make sure that we sit and have these issues resolved. But only this is a relationship which you cannot guarantee that everything has to move perfectly the way you think. Even at the EU, there are also challenges. But and our regional bloc is still a young one. EU has been there for the last 50 years. They still also have challenges. Our this other new one, which was created into almost 20 years ago, we are moving on well. And I think, by the way, if you find out the most developing regional bloc in Africa, the EAC, which is performing well.
And why? What could be characterized by that?
What's characterized is that, you see, we have, for example, the senior customs territory, movement of goods. Goods are supposed to move straight away from. It used to take a number of days, for example, for goods to move from Mombasa to Malaba. Now it takes about 2 to 3 days. The goods are reached. So we have improved them. We have the one-stop border posts. That when you are going to taking goods to Kenya, you don't stop in Uganda first and then stop in Kenya. You just stop once in Kenya because the officials of Uganda will be there and they will handle you. So there are a number of things. We have harmonized the standards. That means the UNBS, with KBS, which is Kenya Bureau of Standards, with Tanzania and Rwanda, that you recognize the standard marks. So you don't disturb if you see a mark on water from Uganda going to Kenya. You don't ask anything. You just allow it to move.
But we have had issues where some of our products reach in Kenya perhaps and then they put made in Kenya. I don't know. Branding, the issue of branding. There's something I saw in one of those headlines. What causes all that? How would we even arrive to such a thing?
You see, I don't think that one shall happen like that. But you see, some of the importers of these goods might be Kenyans.
Okay.
So when they reach in Kenya, they have maybe the other products. They may be able to sell it as what? As Kenyan products. So you can find that the importers could be Kenyans. They import it from here, and they have another from Tanzania, then from Kenya, then they put it together. When you are going to sell it to maybe to EU or somewhere, you are going to say, now this one is from Uganda. So they want to sell it at a government when you go to an international market. By the way, for your surprise, that you can go to a country and you say, I'm from Uganda. You say, what is Uganda? Well, some people may not be knowing where Uganda is and what Uganda is. So at an international level, you might find that a businessman might be thinking that he would better off sell his products from Kenya because Kenya is a bigger economy than Uganda.
Okay. Would joint venture partnerships such as what we're seeing with the SGR and ECOP help, ease or do away with MTBs? Yeah,
the joint, and I think we have done a lot of, we are doing a lot of joint projects with at the ESC level. Of course, you are seeing the ECOP is available. We have been doing joint programs on roads, especially roads between, especially around Malaba and Busia. All those ones have been joint projects. The railway also, and in fact, if the SGR starts operating, these issues of NTBs will be reduced completely because you will put goods from Uganda straight away. If they're going to Mombasa, they will move straight away and go. But because this road transport has got a number of challenges, there is speed limit, there is way bridges, there is security issues, there is what. So those ones are among other things which affect the flow of movement of goods. And even at times, the drivers themselves, they have their own plans. He reaches somewhere, he stops, maybe he has these things he wants to do. He reaches in Malaba, he stays there for 2 days, he reaches what. But if it's the train, if it's the CSGR, you put there the goods, the coffee, up to the destination. But these drivers, these not the human beings who have got their own. You find them parking here, even in Uganda here, along the roads. You find the vehicle parked. And maybe it seems the owner that the vehicle has got spoiled. Maybe they have they're doing trading services.
Maybe to conclude this conversation, what should we expect this year in regards to the EAC trade bloc? What is it looking like?
You know, the EAC has been moving very well over a period of times. We are expecting to continue performing better because we have been negotiating a number of things which we have come to almost concluding the EAC level. But of course, we are also having negotiations at EAC within the EAC, within the CFTA. We are looking at the bigger picture that we can be able to take our goods to. The other day, we're supposed to take our milk to Algeria. We're supposed to take our goods to Accra. I mean, it's Ghana and Nigeria. It's by importing a lot of things from. We're supposed to export beef within Africa and even outside. So we are negotiating at the region, make sure that we are able to supply goods within Africa at the EU level, and even with China and India and other regional blocks. So we are performing much better. We are seeing us moving from one level to another.
Thank you. Good luck with that. Now that will lead us to the end of Coffee Court. As a key takeaway from this conversation, of course, the implementation of the SGR should be able to do away with some of these NTBs and lessen the trade tension within the regional trade, that is the East African community. Many thanks for joining us. As always, my name is Rona Nahabwe, and thank you for watching always.
All right, and as we come to the end of business today, let's have a recap of our top stories.
In business today, KCCA needs more than 1.4 trillion shillings to renovate almost all the roads because of the majority of them have overlived their duration. Experts urge that lack of adequate infrastructure to support cross-border trade could impede the movement of goods and services across the country, making it difficult for businesses to capitalize. Hilton Foundation and other development partners to offer a grant to the tune of $500 million, over 1.8 billion to improve financial.
All right, you've been a wonderful viewer wherever you've been catching us from. I'm Joram Ssonko with Winnie and Nakawuki on For the Sign Language. Till tomorrow, have a good evening and a good night.